Joseph, YouTube, welcome to the Coffee Pod. It's Chisha's AI brother, here with another story. Hey guys, welcome to our first top 5 video. These are the top 5 stupidest reasons women filed for divorce. Kicking off this list, we have a woman saying, if you're married to your husband right now, divorce him. If you watch the Coffee Pod often, then this is probably not the first time you've heard of this viral video. In the video, which was posted online, she starts off by explaining that even if your husband is a nice guy, you aren't a bad person if you decide to file for divorce, before going on to back up her insane ideology by explaining that you are actually doing a good thing for your husband because he doesn't want to be with someone who doesn't want to be with him.
If your husband is a good guy, but you're ready for divorce, you're not a bad person. So don't let guilt get the best of you.
You're not doing him any favors by staying. If anything, you're actually going to start building up resentment. Your relationship doesn't have to be toxic to validate your feelings of wanting to leave.
Kind of makes you question the whole meaning of marriage in the first place, right? But to make matters worse, the audience jumped on board saying things like, good guys don't always make good husbands, and I stayed way too long because of this. But if you thought that was bad, just wait till you see why this next woman divorced her husband. Next up, we have a situation with Tia Mowry, who describes her previous marriage with Corey Hardrick as a high school curriculum. Yes, you heard that right. She explains that you are learning, evolving, and creating, which is actually very true when it comes to marriage. But before you start agreeing with Tia, think again, because she then explains that, like high school, marriage also has a graduation and celebration for the end, and that the success of a marriage shouldn't be based on its length, but instead on whether or not they are happy.
My marriage was a success.
Yeah.
I look at it as like a curriculum when you're in college or high school, right? You're learning, you're growing, you're evolving, you're creating. And I was able to create with Corey some beautiful, amazing children. And at the end of that curriculum, and at the end, there's a graduation, there's a celebration. So that's basically, how I'm looking at it now. And I feel like people look at, when they look at marriage, that success equals longevity. But no, at the end of the day, it's, are they happy?
Wow. And what does this mean for the men out there? Well, it means be careful of women like this, as the second they aren't happy, they are most likely going to bounce. One user even commented on the situation saying, reframing is a powerful technique to overcome challenges in life, such as a divorce. The only issue with this is most people don't know that this is her trying to reframe a negative experience in a way that gives her hope for a better future. And because of her celebrity, the younger generation might go into marriage thinking that one day they're supposed to graduate and won't put in the effort to make marriage last a lifetime. In third place, we have an even crazier situation that involves the first person we covered in this list, who was encouraging other women to divorce their men even if they are good. But this time, another woman is reacting, and she isn't happy. In the video, the woman reacting goes on to explain that she had a friend who was dating a super high-quality man. Think good-looking and well within the 6-figure income range. However, this wasn't enough, as the friend decided to leave her man after going to therapy for her weight and depression. She would say that it was him making her miserable despite him being amazing, and it turns out that it was because of the influence of her feminist therapist. I think the most stupid and ridiculous part of this specific situation was when the woman revealed why her friend divorced her husband. It turns out the only thing she could think of accusing him for was leaving apple cores on the nightstand. Can you believe that? Apple cores on the nightstand. Yup.
I had this friend some years back. She was my best friend in the whole wide world. We hung out constantly. I enjoyed her company. Highly intelligent woman, quite attractive, married. Husband is very attractive, very successful. Not only did he provide for his family, she didn't work, but he cooked, he cleaned, took care of the kids. He was emotionally open and available. Every time I'd come over and hang out with both of them, he was so talkative and emotive and empathetic. I thought, wow, they're the perfect couple in my opinion. 2 beautiful teenage children, perfect life.
Right.
I used to drop things off at her house. She would tell me, oh, can you drop this off? And I would go over and he would be in the house cleaning. Ajax and Pine Sol and Windex and mops out. And he would ask me, Demi, how does everything look? Do you think she'll be happy? Is this up to a woman's standards? Friendliness, he said, I just love her so much. And I would say, wow, you're really incredible. Of course she's going to be happy. You did an amazing job. You always do an amazing job. The relationship with my friend, something started changing in her. You know, she started talking to me about depression, and she's overweight, and she didn't like it. And it never bothered her husband. I mean, he adored her no matter what. But she started complaining about her weight and this depression and saying that she needs to go to therapy, which she did. She found a therapist and started going. But after she started going to therapy, I noticed there was a dramatic change in her. She started complaining. After these sessions, she would begin complaining more and more about her husband and how he's making her miserable. And I would say to her, what do you mean? This is all of a sudden new for you since you started seeing this new therapist.
Right.
So I started inquiring about the therapist. You know, what are her beliefs? And she said, oh, she's very feminine.
Whoa. Okay. And of course, people were upset with this situation, with one user saying, use the law of detachment with women. She's never really into you. It's just your turn. With another saying, once I heard feminist therapist, I could finish telling this story. But man, oh man, this girl has nothing on the craziness of this next story. Now, next up, we have a situation where, get this, a woman decided to cheat and blames God.
Sure, so guys, listen, let's take a moment real quick to talk about something very important, and that's censoring on YouTube. There is coming a time when I believe content like this on the Coffee Pod will not be allowed on platforms like YouTube. Big surprise? I don't think so. Right? I think to most of you guys, you probably can see that happening. The question is, what can I do about it? Well, I can't do anything without your help. One of those things is me promoting other avenues where you guys can reach me. So the first platform I'm going to promote is my Instagram page. Follow me on Instagram. This is important because one day you may log on here and I may be gone. And if you've been with me for a while and have seen me accomplish things like my first 100K subscribers, shout out to YouTube for the plaque, then you personally know how hard I've worked and how much time I've put into this. And of course, I couldn't do anything without you guys. So if you want to keep in touch anywhere else other than YouTube, make sure you follow me on Instagram. It's important that you do this. And I know some of you don't have IG. I'm going to promote more platforms, alternative platforms in the near future. And this is not me saying I want to get taken off YouTube, or I plan to, or I think my channel is at high risk. This is just me taking the necessary precautions. I mean, let's be honest, coffee isn't that popular after all. So if you can and would like another point of contact other than YouTube, make sure you follow me on IG. Hit the link pinned to the top of the comment section. I appreciate y'all. Let's get back into this video.
In the video, the woman starts off by explaining that her husband was being awful to her while on a trip to Mexico, going as far as to not talk to her and put a pillow between them when they slept. But remember, guys, there are three sides to every story: hers, his, and the truth. So I'd love to understand why he was treating her like this. But anyway, in return for this treatment, she decided to speak to a fine, beautiful black man who she claims was sent to her by God on the way back to her hotel room. Yes, I'm being serious. And so what did she do? Well, she let him clap the cheeks vigorously and senselessly. Mercy.
I knew that it was over when I was in Mexico because he told me not to talk to him. He told me not to talk to him while I was on the trip with him. And I'm like, wow, like I'm really on this vacation with my husband in Mexico, the most beautiful place ever. I can't talk to my husband. That means that there's no intimacy going on. That means ain't no touching, no hugging, no anything. This man put a pillow in between us. And at that point, I knew I deserved better. I knew that I gave him so many chances, more chances than what he needed. More chances that I had given anyone else. I knew that I had let him slide, even though the first week when we were talking, I should have cut him loose, but I kept him. On my way back to the hotel room, and long and behold, there was this fine, beautiful black man. There was this fine fine, beautiful black man. I swear, I thought like God himself had sent me this guy. Oh my God, he's tall, fine, beautiful, beautiful teeth, smell good. Like I was like sitting in the back of him, I can just smell like the cologne like just coming my way. Anyways, so I started talking to this guy, and he had some nice conversation in the first, couple of minutes. I'm smelling his cologne. It was some very good conversation. And so at that moment, I decided, you know what? You are overdue on intimacy, love, and everything else. Because at this point, I was done with my husband. Didn't care what the thought about me. Didn't give zero whatsoever. And so, you know what? I hung out with this tall, beautiful black man, and I had the best time of my life. And I swear, like when I was with him, I felt like I freed myself. I felt like I was trapped somewhere, and I know that mentally you're trapped. Good sex can bring you out of that shit, make you to wake up. And that was a moment where I woke up, and I knew that I deserve love. I deserve affection. I deserve good intellectual conversation. I deserve a man that smells good, no salt taste. I deserve it all. And that's when I cheated on my narcissistic husband.
But let's see what the public had to say. One user said, "Overdue on intimacy? Girl, I get it." Another said, "I will not judge. It was long overdue." And finally, one said, "A win is a win, sis." So I guess no one was interested in what happened from the beginning. Anyways, moving on to the final video on this list that is all kinds of crazy. Finishing off this list, we have a woman who wants to divorce her husband, but also have him financially support her after the fact. We're talking about a stay-at-home mom whose retirement plan was to divorce her husband. In the video, the woman explains that after kicking her husband out of the house that he paid for, he decided to force his boss to fire him from his high-paying job to avoid having to pay her alimony. But in reality, what actually happened was that his boss, who is a family member of the wife, removed $3,600 from the paycheck. And now she's going online defaming him over everything that has gone on.
All right, ladies, if you're a stay-at-home mom and your backup plan in case of divorce is your ex-husband is going to pay alimony and child support, listen up. When I filed for divorce for my ex-husband, he was making over $200,000 a year. I kicked him out in October of 2018. He paid me nothing. The day after Jake's wages got garnished for that $3,600, he began telling people inside of the company, there's about 300 employees, that he was going to get fired. If you quit your job, that's different than if you get fired. So 2 days after the only time that Jake's wages were ever garnished, he went into work that day, got into a huge fight with the main owner of our family business, who's a family member, right in front of all of the employees, told him to f*** off, called him a f***. I have this in affidavits. Got all crazy. He was like pushing chairs around and stuff. So that family member had to fire him, didn't have a job. And when we were in court last week, he submitted papers saying that he earns between $1,400 and $1,700 a month as a grown man with no disabilities, with a career history of 6 figures.
But how much do you earn? Nothing.
The story is just crazy, and the public seems to agree with me, with one user saying, "I'll support my kids, but it's not my job to support my ex-wife. I'm not supporting 2 households." With another saying, "If I get married and she divorces me and wants me to pay for her life, well, guess I'm getting fired." Yikes. Now that is a hot cup of coffee. So what do you think of these situations? Let me know in the comment section below. I want to take a moment to really explain why this divorced husband probably quit his job. My assumption is he most likely understood that his high-paying job would probably put him at risk for becoming a modern-day slave to permanent alimony. Keep in mind, he was employed by his ex-wife's family and they began garnishing his wages. Permanent alimony has become a hot topic in the last couple of months. I like permanent alimony to modern slavery because when you take into consideration the progress we've made on the female empowerment front and the gender equality that's been pushed in the West, no man should have to pay his ex-wife's bills following a divorce for the rest of his life. This stay-at-home mom probably understood that the state would most likely require her husband to pay alimony for a duration, or even worse, for the rest of his life. Again, in my opinion, no man or woman should be required to support another human being financially for a lifetime. The topic of permanent alimony has grown in popularity over the last few weeks. The good news is there seems to be change coming. The best example of this is DeSantis, who recently passed a bill that has ended permanent alimony in the state of Florida. DeSantis, though a controversial public figure, I believe made the right call here. We can only hope other states will follow. So, what do you think of these situations? Let me know in the comment section below. Listen, as much as we all don't like to hear these stories, it's important they are highlighted, especially if you're a man who still values marriage today. I think it's never been more important than now for men to really understand the gravity of the situation when it comes to marriage in our modern day. Marriage can be a wonderful thing when it serves its purpose and lasts. However, the problem with that is it takes two committed people to make it work. Commitment is hard to find. Again, for men, especially the men who still plan on getting married, make sure the woman you choose to marry does not think any of these reasons are valid for divorce. Finally, protect yourself. As James Sexton says, you wouldn't jump out a plane without a parachute, so why get married without a prenup? And to men who believe marriage is an outdated technology, I get it. These are crazy times we're living in. As always, I appreciate you for checking out yet another episode of The Coffee Pod. Until next time, peace.